We are going to look at creating a Google form as an assessment with the quiz feature that is built into the Google Forms now. So we're first going to look at creating one brand new form as a quiz, and then we're also going to look at using a form that you've already created and transforming that into a quiz. So what we'll do is go to our Google Drive, we'll click New, More, and we'll choose Google Forms. This says this is going to be created in the chosen folder. I will click OK. And when that loads, I will have a blank form as usual. Now this is going to be set up the exact same way as most Google Forms are, with one difference. We're going to turn this into a quiz in which we'll be able to have immediate responses for feedback. We'll be able to see which students did well in which portion, and then we can differentiate, we can group, we can do immediate assessment in order to enhance learning and allow the students to progress where they need to. So the first thing we'll want to do, as with any form, is give it a title. So we're going to call this one Test 1. And once I create the name, I can use my description. But before we begin to write any of our questions, let's go ahead and go to the right-hand side where the gear is, and this is our settings. When I open settings, we're going to work left to right. The first thing will be general. These settings will apply to this form specifically, no matter if I make it a quiz or just general information feedback. So the general settings will apply to this form whether I choose quiz or not. The next tab is presentation, and I have several options for the presentation of the form itself, and this is what the user will see as they go through. So if I want to have a progress bar so they can see how many questions they've answered already and how many are left that haven't been asked yet, I can include that. I can shuffle the question order, and I can show a link to submit another response. Finally is my confirmation message. This is what will be shown to them once they submit, and you can change that to be whatever you would like. Finally, we'll come to the Quizzes tab. When I look at the Quizzes tab, you'll see that if I turn this slider on, I will be able to assign point values to questions, and it will auto-grade for me without me having to do an extension or anything else in Google Forms. Prior to this, you might use something like Flubaroo where you would export it and then it would calculate for you. With this, it does it all right within the Google form, and you don't have to add an extension or go anywhere else. You do have several options that you want to set up. The first is for release grade. If I use what is default, this means as soon as the student submits the form, they will receive their grade and they'll know what they did and how well they did. If I change it, this can be after manual review, and I can send it to them after it's been reviewed. This will also allow me to choose what they can see and what they are not able to see, so this is something you would want to decide. And anything that you make a change in under these settings, whether it's general, presentation, or quizzes, you want to make sure in the bottom right you click Save so that it saves it. Most things in Google Drive and Google Forms, Google Docs, it automatically saves, but with this, you want to click Save so that we remember it's a quiz. So I'm going to leave this as a quiz, and I'm going to click Save. And now when I build my questions, so let's say that my first question that I want to build is, who was the first president of the USA? Notice I have it as multiple choice. I still have all of my other options. If I wanted to add an image, if I wanted to add a video, I could do that, change some of the title and description. So I'm going to leave it as this. First option, we're going to put Thomas Jefferson. Second option, we'll put George Washington. Now, the same options exist in the lower right as normal on a form, so I want this to be a required question. If I wanted to duplicate it, I could, but I'm going to look at the answer key. This is what makes the quizzes portion of forms different. If you just make a Google form and it's not a quiz, you will not have an answer key. So I'm going to choose answer key, and you'll see that now the two options that I put in, I can choose which one is correct. I can assign a point value to this question. I can also add answer feedback. So if I want to give feedback if there's an incorrect answer chosen, I could type it here, such as something as simple as try again. And if it's the correct answer, I could put something as easy as well done. There is no requirement to put feedback, but that is there in case you would want to do that. I would then click Save, and now it will tell me, here's the feedback for correct, Here's the feedback for incorrect. I can edit that or remove it at any time. If I want to go back to the editing of the question in the way that that looks, I can click Edit Question, and I'm back to my usual Google Form editing. If I click your plus, we're now going to have a new question. Let's say that I put in a short answer question. Now, this is going to be a question that I put in a short answer form because that's the way I would like them to answer. When I click Answer key, you'll notice all I can do is add a point value and feedback. There is no built-in feature for Google Forms to grade in a quiz any typed response. So if a student has a short answer or a longer answer, I would just need to export the responses out to a spreadsheet so I could see those. There's no built-in feature to grade that type of a question. Now if I change this from a short answer to, let's say, a drop-down, and I put in John Hancock, and I put in Ben Franklin, even though I've made it a drop-down, when I go to my answer key, you'll see that now I can choose John Hancock, I can make that 5 points, and this will do the automatic grading. It is the types of questions that are the response questions that will not do the type of grading. That if I wanted to edit this question and I wanted to make it check boxes, you'll notice I could put July 4th, I could put December 23rd, I could put August 19th. Now when I go to my answer key, and there was a question that you had that multiple answers could be chosen, very similar to some part questions, you can have multiple check boxes as the correct answer. So when you're making the quiz, after you have it finished and you are satisfied with everything, you have it set up, if you need to come back and change it, you can. You do want to view your quiz and run through it so that it functions the way that you would like it to, especially if you add media. So if you add a photo, if you add a YouTube video, you want to make sure that it looks the way you would like it to. So we'll click the preview button up here, which is the eyeball, and when we preview it, it allows us to go in. I'm going to choose some answers here just so that you can see the feedback. I'll click Submit. The response has been recorded. I can view my score if I would like, and then as the instructor, I have an immediate response and I can see the summary. Now the summary would be all students. I could go to individual, and I can also turn off that I am accepting responses. So that form is no longer accepting responses, or I could turn that back on. I can also export to a spreadsheet, and I would have all my information in a spreadsheet, and all this does is allow me to quickly gain information on what the students have done so I can group them, I can challenge them, I can change them and their learning. The last thing I want to show you is, let's say that I have a form created. So this is a general form for feedback, and if this is one I've created and it wasn't built as a quiz but I want to turn it into a quiz, I can open the form, go back up to my settings, go to quizzes, make this a quiz, change any of the information I want, choose save, and now I'll be able to go into this question, create an answer key, add point value, and do the same thing that I did with my other form that I just created as a quiz. So this is a very efficient, quick, and useful way to get information on your students, where they are, how they're learning, how they're doing, and you don't have to necessarily recreate things that you have already done. All you need to do is add your answer key and the point value, and it will allow you to grade directly in Google Forms.